This is WPSL Port St. Lucie.
The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily match those of WPSL. However, we are the ones that encourage you to like and share them on social media and with all of your friends and neighbors. Because Howard Insurance, no, not anymore. Rudy Howard, independent insurance agent Rudy Howard, and Martin County Roofing present the African American Scene, hosted by Rudy Howard.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Always glad to be with you on a Wednesday night. Well, I like saying that again. Wednesday night.
Back on Wednesdays, yes.
Yeah, that's great. Hey, first, let me start off with the end of the show last week.
Okay.
The end of the show last week, Ken called up and he was very upset with me because I did not subscribe to his theory about Judge Jackson. And let me make a comment about that. He is the very example for why we are so screwed up in this country. And I'm going to tell you why he's an example. She had over 600 cases that she was a judge for. They picked 9 cases of which to make an issue. They make an issue of 9 out of 600 cases. And none of them were that she did not deliver proper jurisprudence. It was a question of the level of jurisprudence. How can you, layperson, decide that her judgment was proper or improper without hearing the full context of the issues and all of the fundamentals of the case itself? That is purely ignorant, bias, prejudicial opinion. And it's harmful to us as a country. You cannot, you can, because this is America and there's a freedom of speech. But when you make a flat statement like that, an arrogant statement about the qualifications of the judge, and you don't have all of the information, and there's over 600 cases that you can look at, and she's got more of a background and more of a history than the last 3 judges applied, there's a problem there. And the problem is with you, not with her. Okay? I want to get that off my chest because that got stuck in my craw because Ken hit me with that at the last minute last week and I didn't get a chance to respond. So I'm responding now, and I dare you to call back, Ken, if you are so brave, and we will take issue with that statement you made. Okay. Now that I got that off my chest because I got good and pissed off about that. All right, we still have some raffles because the YMCA house will be selected on April 14th. So if you remember how the game works, I'm going to give you a trivia question.
If you haven't won in the last 30 days.
Yes, because if you won, Winnie, you can't call again. I love you and you're one of my favorite listeners, but you can't call again. If you name the trivia question, get the right trivia question, you will get a ticket for the upcoming raffle for the Easter house, which is worth $350,000.
Wow.
Okay. So here's the question for tonight. And I'm sorry for that rant, but I had to get that off my chest. Which state has the most HBCUs? Which state has the most HBCUs? If you can tell me which state has the most HBCUs, you will get a raffle ticket for the YMCA Easter house. Okay, that number is 340-1590. I'm going to talk about a couple of different things tonight, but one of them I want to talk about is leadership. One of you had contacted me and told me how you were looking forward to having a discussion about solar. I'm going to push that off right now because I want to bring on a solar expert in the next couple of weeks, because that an issue is too important to just skim over. So I want to have a person on here that can bring you up to date on the availability of the incentives, etc. So we will get to that. But tonight, I'm going to start off with a talk about leadership, because what we saw with Judge Jackson were people vying for leadership in all the inappropriate ways. They were looking for attention grabbing. I mean, there's even one picture which was shameful. Ted Cruz looking down at his telephone to see whether or not he generated any buzz after making his testimony about Judge Jackson. I can tell you this. One of the things that I'd like for some of you to do, because I don't think you do it real well, and it's not all of you, but some of you, try putting yourself in someone else's shoes and then make a value judgment from there, as opposed to making a value judgment from where you are. Because I will tell you categorically, there was a lot of upset Black women in this country about the way Judge Jackson was treated. Now, maybe you can't understand that, but I'm going to ask you to try to put yourself in the eyes of a Black female, highly qualified, who has not seen a person that looked like her sit on the bench in the history of this country, and someone who is no doubt qualified, more qualifications than some of the people that are already sitting on the bench, and then people trying to rip her to pieces. See if you'd be upset about that. You're upset, and let me give you contrary thinking. As faulty as it is something you should be able to hold on to. You're upset about critical race theory because that might be something offensive to your children. Hello?
No, it's not offensive to your children. Because we've heard some stories you've told us about your son.
Yeah.
He can hardly believe the things he's heard you say that you had to go through growing up as a young Black man in the USA.
Yes.
And he can hardly believe that because things have changed considerably since then. But some might think that critical race theory might stir up some anger, perhaps.
Well,
you don't think so?
No, I don't think so. I think what it is they are, I don't want to say all white people, but there is a large segment of white people that don't wish for their kids to find out about some of the horrible things that were done in the past. And in their mind, it should stay in the past, and there's no need for it to come forward.
But the lessons of history prove that if we don't learn a lesson from history, we're doomed to have history repeat itself on us.
Yeah, and you know what? If here's the most classic example that I can think of that's recent. And I want you to really grasp this thought. This week, we passed an anti-lynching law in 2022.
You mean it's been legal up till now?
Can you believe we just passed an anti-lynching law In 2022, they've tried over 200 times to pass an anti-lynching law, and it finally passed in 2022. If that's not a disgrace, I don't know what a disgrace is. Now, you don't want the kids to know about the fact that you just passed the anti-lynching law, and it used to be legal to hang us from a tree. Matter of fact, people had parties when they hung us up from a tree. We just passed that law. And then you say, well, we shouldn't talk about the past. Think about how sickening that is. And one of the reasons why they had to pass that law is most of the people guilty of that crime have never been punished.
Well, they've obviously never been lynched for it either.
Yes, correct.
Now, do you suppose that law might affect, say, penalties for treason?
I don't know.
I heard some discussion where that the reason they're getting rid of lynching is because that's what it's called when somebody's sentenced to a death penalty of hanging, which is such in treason.
Well, yeah, but what the lynching that took place back in the day was, and it's been called the Emmett Till lynching, anti-lynching.
And it
bill.
wasn't really ever truly legal either.
Yes, yes.
Right.
But, you could get lynched for looking at a white woman. Now think about this, and here's the irony. And this is the kind of thing that I don't think they particularly want to be known. Emmett Till was murdered because they said he winked at a white woman.
Wow.
Now, okay, I get it. You didn't like that, but let's do a flashback. You were taking our women on a regular basis anytime you felt like it when they were on the master's quarters, and there was nothing anybody could say anything about, which is why we come in every color of the rainbow. But that's another story. But listen, I just want to say what we saw with Judge Jackson was a disgrace, and it was people vying for leadership. Now, and again, I welcome your thoughts. 340-1590.
Yeah.
That's 340-1590.
And the lines are open right now.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm going to say to you, I think as Americans, we've done a bad job sometime of selecting leaders. And I'm going to tell you why I think we've done a bad job.
Tribalism.
Well, tribalism, and we look for the shiny object. Okay.
Oh.
I'll give you two examples. They fawned all over Ronald Reagan. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
What was Ronald Reagan? He was an actor. Yeah. And he lost. And Jimmy Carter, he beat Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter was a graduate of Union College, a graduate of the Naval Academy, also a graduate of Georgia Institute of Technology and Georgia Southwestern University. And Reagan, as best we can tell, went to Eureka College, and I'm not sure whether he graduated or not. But I'm just going to say now, when you take the background of Jimmy Carter compared to the background of Ronald Reagan, there really is no contest. The difference was Reagan was an orator, and he was the shiny object because you had seen him on the silver screen.
We were starstruck.
Yes. So people gravitated to Reagan. Now, if you go and you think about substance, Carter was a brilliant man. Low key, probably the reason why he could not get his energy policy in place was because the fact that he was low key. But one of the things that I want you to think about is Jimmy Carter's energy policy was way ahead. I wanted you to listen to this now. It was way ahead of his time. And that was because the man was brilliant. He saw in the 70s that we needed to do something about energy, okay? And he brought forth a policy, and he told us in the 70s, and he has what's called his crisis speech. It was called the Crisis of Confidence speech, which was a very famous speech that Jimmy Carter gave. And he gave that speech warning us that there's going to be an energy crisis. And he had some plans about what we could do to save energy if we were willing to take the pain to do it back then.
And he did.
Yes, he was way ahead of his time. And listen what he did. And a lot of you don't even know this. Do you know he had solar panels on the White House? Jimmy Carter had solar panels on the White House in 1978.
Wow.
In 1978, he had solar panels on the White House. And guess what?
Executive order?
Ronald Reagan took them down.
Ooh.
Think about that. Think about that.
If we'd have had the foresight that Jimmy Carter had.
Yes, exactly. And you know why? But because Jimmy Carter was just Jimmy Carter. The good old soft-spoken guy, governor from Georgia, who everybody wanted to call a liberal squish, who was smarter. He was 10 times smarter than Reagan.
They all still ate peanut butter afterwards.
Yes, right. He was 10 times smarter than Reagan. Reagan couldn't hold his jockstrap. Now Reagan maybe politically was more astute than Carter. I don't even know that that's necessarily so. It's just that Reagan's persona and his personality was strong, and he was able to enunciate positions a lot better than Carter did. I would venture to tell you, if we had all listened to President Jimmy Carter back in the 1970s,
wow,
today we would be in really good shape energy-wise. Just think about that. Back then, his goal was to 20% of renewable energy by the year 2000. That was his goal. He wanted to have 20% renewable energy by the year 2000, from 78 to 2000.
He put his money where his mouth was too. He went ahead and installed solar panels on the White House.
Yes.
That's
now,
a substantial something to do in that direction.
Yes, but here's what I'm going to tell you. And this is my humble opinion. And unlike some of my callers, I'm going to tell you there's no categorical fact for this, but I'm going to make a supposition. We went through an energy crisis. And I think we all remember when you could only get gas on odd days and even days. And
We're almost to that again now.
You remember when we went through that?
Yeah, remember the lines.
Yeah. I am going to suggest, without any fact, that part of that reason we went through that is the oil companies weren't real happy with the policies that Jimmy Carter was proposing, because it would have cut back on the amount of oil that would be used by the consumers.
That's right. The great USA, kissers of the world's something I can't say on the radio.
Yes.
Simply because well, we're a nation of those.
Okay. So
There's a lot of
now
that going on.
I want you to think about that now. For those of you that are old enough to remember that, you probably never made it connected the dots, but I want you to connect the dots now.
Okay.
Think about the fact that we went through that strong energy setback. Interest rates rose up to like 13, 14%. And guess what?
They don't anymore.
Well, yeah, but all of that energy policy that Carter proposed went away when Reagan came in.
Well, yeah, because well, everybody was glad they could get gas again.
Yeah.
But that's not a great motivator in a country or a world that's in trouble because of it.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, in case you think that I'm all wet with what I'm going to tell you, what I was just telling you, I'm going to give you further evidence of the situation. And this you can look up because you know how I am. I like to give you facts. There is a short film on YouTube called "What Happened to the Electric Car?" Okay. There was a car created by GM called the EV1. It was an all-electric car. That car was in production by General Motors. It had a minimal driving range of about 70 miles, but was basically being designed for California. And the people in California didn't care because they were more than happy to have it because of the gas mileage it was going to save them in terms of using electric. Here's the catch. See, a lot of people, this is another one of these things people listening tonight, they don't know anything about. They wouldn't sell the car.
They wouldn't sell it?
No, they wouldn't sell it. They only leased or rented it. One of the famous actors, Ed Begley, led a protest in California trying to get GM to sell the car. GM wouldn't sell the cars at all.
Wow.
They crushed them. So if you pull up that movie, and I know some of you are looking right now at YouTube and finding what happened to the electric car, there's a scene in there where a reporter goes to the stockyard and they're crushing these brand new cars. Now, why?
Politics, probably.
There's a couple of things going on here. If you got an electric car, what are you not buying?
Gas and oil products.
Bingo!
I think we've hit it on the nose here.
And if it's an electric car, it's not a combustible engine. So guess what?
Another smack, just like the one that Will Smith gave to Chris Rock. Very similar.
No parts to be,
Right.
all those are parts that have to be replaced and then be worn out. Those are no longer in need either.
Wow.
So
I guess it's all microchips and you better get them made and get them over here, right? Well, the electric cars are very intriguing.
well,
I can't wait.
So what happens now? Now the car companies have decided it is the time. And I said earlier this year that in 5 years, most of the cars on the road were going to be electric. I think that I went too long. I think probably in another 3 or 4 years, most of the cars on the road are going to be electric because it's just growing so fast.
They're already talking about a $5,000 electric car that Tesla Corporation is going to make. They tried it in Japan and it worked out really good for a people's car, an affordable people's car. You know how easy it would be to get a $5,000 loan for a brand new car? It'll be easy.
Hey, listen, my dad bought, when they came out with that Volkswagen, it was 1999. I remember that. He got a brand new Volkswagen for 1999, and it got a zillion miles to the gallon because it was my first car.
Oh yeah.
A little Beetle Bug, so
the newer ones, yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah. So listen, if you didn't believe what I was saying about Carter, now I want you to look that up. Now I don't want you to take my word for it. I want you to look what happened to the electric car. Now, again, I'm tying all this back to leadership. So if we have effective leaders, leaders should be moving us in a direction that is most beneficial for society as a whole.
That way it would take a true leader, not just a one that looks good and sounds good. We want one that's going to do good.
So if you're going to be an effective leader, it's not about you. It's about the team, or in our case, about the people. So as the leader, you're going to do things that you think are in the best benefit of the American people. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Now, unfortunately, I'm listening to, I've told you guys before, I'm into this masterclass thing. And I'm currently listening to a lecture by Dolores Kearns Goodwin, who she's a Nobel Prize winning historian. And she worked under LBJ, and her husband, who I never realized, he worked for several presidents as well. And one of the things that she talks about in her lecture that I've heard thus far is that in the older times, when all of the congressmen and senators had to stay in Washington and weren't running home on Thursday night to do fundraisers, there was more camaraderie among the people in the Congress and the Senate because they got to know each other, because they were there and they spent the weekends, and their wives and their kids spent time together. Now, because on Thursdays you run out and you're going back to your home turf to raise money, there's a sense of disconnectedness that exists. So there's not as much collegiality among the members of Congress and the Senate. But in the final analysis, and here's the thing, that as much as conservatives hate AOC, and AOC is a bit radical, but one thing I can say for AOC is she has the heart of her people. She's not coming at this for herself. She's not coming at this for somebody that's paying her freight. She comes at it because it's what she believes. Now, you may not believe what she believes, but she is coming at it from a place of sincerity and a place of honesty and a place of solid leadership. And on that, she gains my respect, even if there are things that I don't particularly agree with her about. Here's another aspect of leadership that I want you to understand. When I was running the New York City office, I had three assistant managers and 17 supervisors. And when I would promote a supervisor, I'd call them in my office and I'd say, okay, congratulations. I've just promoted you to supervisor, but I didn't make you the leader. And they would always look at me like, yeah, they would look at me like, what? You didn't make me the leader? I said, no, I gave you the title. You're going to make yourself the leader of that group of people. I can't do that. I gave you the title. Now it's your turn. It's your obligation to go out there and earn the respect of those people and get them to follow you. That's the deal, folks. Earn the respect of people and get them to follow you. And you know what? If you look back on history and you look at the great leaders that we've had, they can get people to follow them because people believe in them. When you have people that don't believe in you or you bully them, they don't follow you for the right reasons. Now I'm gonna give you a perfect classic example. You see what's happening in Russia right now? That's from a lack of effective leadership. Now, why would I say that? Putin has been in power for so long, he's drunk.
He forgot all about what the Soviet Union was able to do compared to what he can do now.
Well, he is no longer concerned with protocol and team building. He's only concerned with what he wants and had no tolerance for anybody that disagrees with him. So anybody that disagreed with him is not allowed to stay. So that has allowed him to live in the la-la land of believing that he had this fabulous army, because nobody in their right mind will go in and say, Mr. Putin, some of the things that you want us to do are not quite right, because you might get poisoned or thrown out the window for doing that. So his leadership by bully is now coming back and biting him in the fanny.
Oh, yeah.
Because his troops are getting their butts whipped.
Yeah, remember that 40-mile parade of tanks?
Yes.
That as they were getting to the Ukraine, there were people with weapons blowing up those tanks with anti-tank weapons. Where'd they get those? And wow, what a surprise to Russia, who would think that aggression's everything when it's not really, not when you can be beaten.
Yeah.
They got to tone it down a little bit just for their own survival's sake, you know?
And another thing you learn about being a good leader, it's not up to you to do all the communications. You don't do all the communications. Now, and I'm going to just tell you, and we're getting ready to, I see you guys getting ready to make the same mistake again. We had Trump and he wouldn't let anybody communicate except for Trump. Okay. And we got mixed messages, we got broken messages, we got incomplete messages. And now we have Biden, and we've seen multiple people communicate. We've seen we have back to press briefings. We have his secretary of Army comes out and tells us what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. Trump would not allow that to happen. He would feel that he had to control every aspect of communications, and all that did was make a classic mess. But I hope that you're smart enough to have learned from that, and no matter who you would pick, I would hope you would not go back and pick somebody else that would try to conduct the government business in such a manner. And you don't have to have all the answers. Great leaders surround themselves with people that can give them advice. You know, I told my son, you know, if you're a parent, you go through these spells with your kid where you try to give them advice and they like, oh, you don't know, blah, 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 blah. And I told my son one time, I said, you know, Trevor, let me explain to you something. I said, the president of the United States, this is when Obama was the president, I said, He graduated magna cum laude from Harvard Law School, president of the Law Review, and he surrounded himself with advisors, people that can give him information about which direction that he should go. Do you think he does that because he's not smart enough to figure it out? No, he does that because he's not able to master every aspect of every decision that must be made within the government. Now think about that for a second. There's a few 100,000 people in the government. Do you think that a person who's president should know every single thing that's going on in every tiny crevice of the government on a daily basis? Not realistic. What they should know is they should have instruments in place that would allow them to gather the information about what's going on in the various departments, but they don't have to know those intricacies themselves. And it's not realistic that they could or should know those intricacies, you know? And if you're smart, you will surround yourself with people that can give you that kind of information. And you don't always have to take credit. You're the leader. It's okay for you to say that somebody else did a good job and that somebody else was successful at doing such and such. Now, can you imagine our former president doing that, giving somebody else credit for doing something? That's not going to happen. So you don't have to do that. And what that does, that engenders confidence by your troops when you are willing to give them credit for things that they've done, maybe even if they only partially did it, but had a hand in it. Makes good sense. That's good management. And here's another one, a big one, and I was always pretty good at this. It's okay to make a mistake. And it's okay to say to your troops, I made a mistake. I screwed up. And you know what? When you do that, they'll be wanting to cover you because they'll feel like they're on your side. If you think, if you try to browbeat them into believing that you're perfect and that you never make a mistake, well, that's horse pucky, because we all do. We all do.
Who doesn't?
Right, exactly. So it's very possible that you make a mistake. And if you've heard our past president, I bear no responsibility for that. Oh, come on, really?
Denial?
Yeah, really? You bear no responsibility for that? No, come on. So all of those things that I'm telling you are important aspects of leadership. And I want you to do a better job than you have in the past about selecting leaders for our country, because what we have ended up doing is putting people in positions of leadership, and they have not demonstrated leadership skills. I think you got a good window into the kind of people seeking leadership in the course of the Supreme Court hearings. And I would hope very seriously that you wouldn't give any of them any serious consideration for future leadership positions because they don't deserve them. That phone number again is 340-1590. You just let me talk on and on and on and on and on. You haven't said anything.
You're almost out of time to make a call and a comment on the show tonight.
Yeah, and you haven't even got my trivia question yet. What state has the most HBCUs? And if you get that, you get the winner raffle ticket for the upcoming Easter house.
So the key is knowing what the acronym stands for.
Historically Black colleges and universities.
Oh, okay.
They should know that, but
That's
I'll say that
easy.
yes. HBCUs.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So which state has the most historically Black colleges and universities? And I would tell you, the historically Black colleges and universities have played a really important role for many African Americans in our country because they were the first place where we were allowed to go and get a post-secondary education. And there's been a lot of pretty successful Black folks in this country that obtained their degrees from HBCUs. So let's talk a little bit more about Supreme Court justice. I think, let me just say this too. I got to get this off my chest also. I respect the fact that Tim Scott is a conservative and he wants to pay his homage to conservative values. But Tim Scott, if you don't vote for Judge Jackson, I have given you some credit for understanding your need to want to play to the conservative people who have supported you. But you have lost me completely if you do not vote for Judge Jackson. There's no reason for you not to vote for Judge Jackson. None, zero. It was all over the internet the past week. They showed a litany of her experience versus the last three judges' experience, and she far exceeds the experience of the last three judges that were put on the Supreme Court. There's just no reason not to support Judge Jackson. And again, I'm going to ask each one of you, my white listeners, try your best to just put yourself in a position, in the mindset of how Black women feel about Judge Jackson going on to the Supreme Court. You know, I can tell you little things that happen that you really maybe are not quite sensitive to. Like I will tell you that one of the benefits of President Obama becoming president, high school graduation rates in the Black community went up. They went up.
Well, they had the best of role models too, a Black president of the United States of America.
Well, they could see, all of a sudden now you see something that says, oh, maybe, just maybe I might be able to do that. And that's that's the key. So when Judge Jackson goes and she sits down on that Supreme Court, there's going to be a little girl somewhere in the United States. That's me.
Oh, okay.
There's going to be a little girl somewhere in the United States that's going to say, you know what? Just maybe, I might be able to become a Supreme Court justice.
It restores hope in people.
Yes. And you want to be able to see that object that makes things attainable. One of the things that I never realized when I was a strong supporter of integration, very strong supporter of integration. But one of the things that I didn't anticipate that would happen when there was integration, when there was no integration in the neighborhoods that most Black people grew up with, there was lawyers, accountants, doctors, dentists, salesmen, construction, all lived in the same neighborhood because they had no choice. With integration, there was choice. So some of the role models that kids had early on growing up were gone from the neighborhood once integration came in. Now, I still think that that was appropriate because it allowed people to live in places that they could afford to live, to give their children better environments and better education. And for that, that was worth it. But the side effect of that, I just never saw that coming, but it did happen. And I really learned it more from my wife than me being a Northerner, because by her being from North Carolina, she grew up in that neighborhood where everybody that was there, the teachers, the doctors, they all went to the same supermarket. They all went to the same stores. So, you could go to the store and you might see your teacher from school who can talk to your mother. So, it was a very different kind of thing than what I had grown up with, being from Philadelphia, New Jersey area. But in any event, I think it's imperative that we put Judge Jackson on the Supreme Court. Way overdue. And I think she'll make us proud. There's nothing that I have seen to make me think she'll do anything but make us proud. And I'm going to give you one other thing that I want y'all to hold on to. And I can say this from experience. When you're the first, the pressure on you to do the right thing is enormous. So you don't have to really worry about her not performing the way she's supposed to perform. The pressure she'll feel to perform correctly and help produce the best possible outcomes from her seat will be 20 times greater than anything that you can put on her. That pressure will be on her herself. So you can feel confident, confident that she will do a bang up job. That I am as sure of as anything I've been sure of. And it will be without controversy. I guarantee you that. Now, I'm going to tell you this, because here's the last thing. Clarence Thomas is a problem. Not only should Clarence Thomas recuse himself, Clarence Thomas should be impeached from the Supreme Court. Yes, I said it. I think he should be impeached from the Supreme Court, because what his wife has done, her promoting hardcore right-wing values and sedition, because she was really supporting sedition of our government, he shouldn't be there anymore. Sorry. He's a Black man, but I'm telling you, that Black man should not sit on the Supreme Court anymore. He should be impeached. I would say that if it was a Democrat and his wife did that, that is just inexcusable behavior to me, just inexcusable. And at the very minimum, he should recuse himself. And if he doesn't, Judge Roberts has an obligation as Chief Justice to do something. Not sure what he could do because there's just really no set rules for Supreme Court justices, but something must be done. It cannot stand the way it is right now. So we will see. What I will try to do between now and next Wednesday is I'm going to come up with a guest to help me with the solar situation, because I want to give you concrete, up-to-date information about solar so that you can take advantage of the opportunities, because the window is rapidly closing on that, I think. But we'll let you know exactly what's what on that as far as that's concerned. I've got several people in my neighborhood that have gone solar, and they're trying to get me and my wife to go solar, and I'm thinking about it very strongly. So,
well, it'll definitely save money on your light bill, because whatever the power company uses that you don't use, they have to compensate you for it.
yes, except though DeSantis just passed a rule that there's a sunset on that. After so many, that's part of what has made me hesitate. The new law that he's passing, after a certain period of time, they no longer have to give you back that power.
Ooh.
So we'll see.
Let's just get off of the oil and the gas thing for now.
I would agree. Yeah, we'll work on that. I will get you some answers.
All right.
So we need that. But I'd like to thank you so much for tuning into the African American scene, and you just let me talk the whole hour.
They're in agreement with you. They all agree with what you said tonight. Everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for listening to the African American scene. God bless and be safe, and I'll see you next Wednesday right here for the African American scene.
The African American scene, presented back to Wednesday nights in the 6 o'clock hour, brought to you by Martin County Roofing and, of course, independent insurance agent Rudy Howard himself. This is WPSL, Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast, webcaster to the world on Google Home, Alexa, and the TuneIn app on your smartphone.